I never thought it would come to this the moment I had to choose between the life I always dreamed of and the woman who had always been there for me, holding me together when the world seemed to be falling apart. It all started with a phone call. The kind of call that should have been a dream come true. A top Hollywood director had seen my audition tape and wanted me to star in his next film. I was finally going to be famous. I could already see the red carpets, the flashing cameras, the interviews. It was everything I had ever wanted. But then Lily called. "I can't lose you," she whispered, her voice shaking with a mix of desperation and fear. I should have said something reassuring. I should have told her everything would be fine. But instead, I felt the weight of her words settle in my chest, and the truth hit me like a ton of bricks. Lily, my adoptive sister, the one who had raised me, protected me, loved me like no one else ever had, was slowly, painfully slipping into madness. And in that moment, I realized something I couldn't ignore anymore. She wasn't going to let me go. Not now, not ever. The choice was, clear take the movie deal and walk away from everything I knew, or stay with Lily, trapped in her suffocating love that was no longer just love. What would I choose? I remember the day I met Lily as if it were yesterday. I was just a scared little girl, with no family, no home, and no idea what love even looked like. My parents had died in a car accident, and my world had shattered into pieces. I had been shuffled through foster homes, each one worse than the last, until she found me. Lily was nothing like the other adults I had known. She wasn't just a foster. Paranchi was a lifeline. From the first moment we met, she wrapped me in her arms, and for the first time, I felt safe. I had never known a woman so strong, so loving, and yet so broken. She'd been through her own share of heartache, but she never showed it. To me, she was perfect. Always. She had raised me since I was 8 years old, and over the years, we became more like sisters than anything else. She taught me how to walk, how to talk, how to trust again. Her love wasn't the kind that came with conditions or expectations. It was pure, unconditional. She was the reason I believed in the idea of family, even when the world kept reminding me I didn't have one. But there was always something different about Lily. There was a hunger in her eyes, a thirst for something more. I had always admired her strength, her ability to hold everything together, even when the world around us seemed to crumble. But there were moments, small moments, when I saw cracks in her facade. She was fiercely protective of me. No one was ever good enough for me in her eyes. If I made a friend at school, she'd always find a reason to warn me to be cautious. "People aren't always what they seem, Jade," she'd say, her voice tinged with an intensity that I didn't fully understand at the time. "Trust is fragile. Don't give it away too easily." And I'd listen, thinking she was just being protective. But now, I wonder if she knew something I didn't, something about herself. As I grew older, I started dreaming of more. I wanted a life outside of the walls of our home, a future that was all my own. Lily had supported me in everything: my education, my career choices, my wild ambitions. But I could see it in her eyes whenever I talked about leaving, whenever I mentioned my dreams of acting, of becoming someone. The sparkle in her eyes dimmed, just for a moment, and I thought it was because she was proud of me. I never realized it was something else, a growing fear that I would slip away from her forever. And then, everything changed. I met Daniel. He was charming, sweet, and everything I had ever wanted in a partner. He encouraged me to go after my dreams, to audition for movies, to chase the fame I had always imagined. Lily never seemed to like him. She'd always give me these tight smiles whenever we'd go out together, and her warnings came more frequently. "Not everyone who flatters you is your friend, Jade. Watch your heart," she'd say. I laughed it off, thinking she was just being protective again. But I should have listened. The deeper I got into my career, the more I noticed the distance between us. Lily became quieter, more withdrawn, and her small acts of affection turned into subtle displays of control. She would rearrange my schedule without asking, make decisions for me that I hadn't agreed to. At first, I thought she was just trying to help, but then something shifted inside me. I felt like I was losing myself. I started to resent her a little, for holding me so tight that I could hardly breathe. And yet, every time I tried to break free, I felt this pull, this invisible thread that tied me to her. Because deep down, I knew she loved me. She had always loved me. Though what I didn't realize was that her love was no longer healthy, it was obsessive. She wasn't just my protector anymore. She was becoming something else. Something I couldn't quite define. I had always thought that as I grew older, I'd be free. But now, I was realizing just how complicated freedom really was. It started with a message. One that I wasn't supposed to see. I'd just finished a long day at auditions and was feeling the familiar rush of excitement that came with chasing my dreams. Lily had made us a late dinner, her way of showing that even when she was distant, she was still trying to hold on to something familiar. We ate in silence, as we often did when the tension between us grew thick. Her eyes seemed to always wander to my phone, like she was waiting for something, or maybe dreading it. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was distracted, replying to an email about another casting call, but then my phone buzzed again. A message notification. I glanced at the screen without thinking, something I never usually did when Lily was around, but this time, my gut twisted. It was from Daniel. I froze. It wasn't just a message, it was a photo. A photo of Daniel, holding hands with someone I didn't recognize. She was standing so close to him, her hand wrapped possessively around his wrist. And the look in their eyes, it was something I couldn't ignore. They looked like they were in love. I blinked, trying to convince myself that it was nothing. Maybe it was a friend, maybe they were just joking around. But why did it make my stomach churn in that way? Who's that? Lily's voice broke the silence. She wasn't looking at me, she was staring at the phone in my hand, her eyes sharp, piercing. The way she said it made it feel like she had known something was coming. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do you mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. You didn't see the message? Lily asked, her tone deceptively calm. It's from him, isn't it? Daniel? I nodded, my throat suddenly dry. Do you trust him? Lily asked, a softness in her voice that was somehow scarier than any anger could have been. There was something off about the way she said it, like she knew something I didn't. Are you sure he's not playing with you? I opened my mouth to defend him, to tell her she was wrong. But I couldn't. Something in my chest felt heavy, like a warning bell had gone off in my mind, one I couldn't ignore anymore. I tried to focus on the photo again, to make sense of it, but it was no use. The more I stared, the clearer it became that something wasn't right. The girl in the photo had her head tilted towards Daniel, her smile too wide, her eyes too confident. And then there was his expression, something in his eyes that I couldn't place. Was it guilt? Or something else? Lily was watching me closely now, her lips pressed tightly together. Her fingers tightened around her glass of wine, her knuckles white. I knew she was trying to stay composed, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her when she spoke again. He doesn't love you, Jade. Not the way you think he does. The words hit me harder than I could have expected. It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. I opened my mouth to argue, to call her out for being paranoid, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, a sick feeling settled in my stomach. Was Lily right? Had I been so blinded by my dreams and ambition that I hadn't seen the truth? The image burned into my mind, and I couldn't stop staring at it. Daniel's smile in that photo, the way he looked of her with such familiarity, such ease, it wasn't just a friendly gesture. And suddenly, I wasn't so sure of anything anymore. I looked up at Lily, searching her face for some sign of reassurance, some indication that I was wrong to feel the way I did. But all I saw was a cold certainty in her eyes, a certainty I couldn't ignore. Why would he do this? I whispered, the question hanging in the air like a confession I wasn't ready to make. Lily didn't answer immediately. She just took a long, slow sip from her glass, her eyes never leaving me. You've been too trusting, Jade. Too blind. Now you'll have to see the truth for yourself. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and loyalty shattered into pieces. I couldn't stop thinking about the photo. It kept flashing in my mind like a neon sign I couldn't escape. Daniel and her, smiling together, like they belonged, like they were a family, a team. It had been hours since I first saw the message, and still, my mind wouldn't let go. I had put my phone away, left it in the kitchen, but that didn't stop the image from playing over and over again. I kept imagining them together. What was she like? What did he see in her? Was it something I was lacking? Or was I just too naive to see the signs? I walked back into the living room, where Lily was sitting, her eyes glued to the TV. Her silence was suffocating. She hadn't said anything after that last comment about Daniel, and it was killing me. "Lily," I whispered, my voice shaking. She didn't respond, didn't even look up. "Lily, I need to know. You have to tell me what you know. Please." She finally turned her head slowly, her gaze intense. "I'm not the one who should be telling you, Jade. You need to figure this out for yourself." Her words stung, but I wasn't angry not yet. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something worse. A suffocating sense of doubt. Was she right? Had I been too blind to see what Daniel was doing behind my back? I paced back and forth, running my hands through my hair, trying to keep my mind focused. What should I do? Should I confront him? Should I ask him directly? But then, what if I was just overreacting? What if Lily was wrong, just as she had been with all the other warnings she'd given me about people over the years? But then, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling in my gut. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that something about Daniel had shifted in the past few months. He had started to act distant, distracted. There were times when I called him, and he didn't answer right away. He had stopped looking at me the same way, like something had changed. I had convinced myself that I was imagining it, that I was being paranoid. But what if it wasn't just in my head? I thought back to the last time we were together, when we had gone out to that fancy restaurant. He had seemed off, withdrawn. I chalked it up to the stress of his work, his busy schedule, but now I wasn't so sure. I closed my eyes, trying to push the images from my mind, but they kept coming back. I saw him with her again, laughing, holding her hand. The way his face lit up around her, the way she seemed so comfortable with him. A small, cruel voice in my head kept whispering, "He's with her. He's leaving you." The tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought them back. I couldn't let this break me. Not now. Not when I was so close to everything I'd ever wanted. I sat down on the couch, my hands shaking as I reached for my phone. The message from Daniel was still there, waiting. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, torn between the urge to call him, to ask him what was going on, and the fear of hearing the truth. What if he admitted it? What if he confessed that he had been seeing her all along, that he had been lying to my face this entire time? I bit my lip, my chest tightening with the weight of the uncertainty. Should I call him? Confront him? But what if I was wrong? What if Lily was just trying to manipulate me, playing on my insecurities? I couldn't let her tear apart my relationship with Daniel. He was the only person who had ever truly made me feel alive outside of this house. I had dreams of a future with him, dreams of leaving everything behind and stepping into the world together. I closed my eyes again, trying to quiet my racing thoughts, but all I could hear was the beat of my heart, fast and frantic, like a drum in my ears. I needed to know the truth. I couldn't go on like this, lost in a haze of doubt. "Why won't you just tell me?" I whispered into the quiet room. "Why won't you just tell me what's happening?" Lily didn't answer. She just stared at the TV, her silence louder than any words she could have said. I felt like I was drowning, caught between the desire to know the truth and the fear of losing everything. My mind kept spiraling, caught in a web of questions I couldn't escape. Did he love me? Or had I been just another game to him? Had Lily seen this coming? And then it hit me. I was terrified. Not of confronting him, but of finding out that the person I had trusted more than anyone in the world had been lying to me all along. That maybe, just maybe, Lily had been right. The next morning, I couldn't wait any longer. The uncertainty had eaten at me all night, turning my thoughts into a chaotic mess. I had to confront Daniel, no more hiding, no more second-guessing. I texted him first, asking if we could meet. I had to get this over with, to hear the truth straight from his lips. His reply was quick. "Sure, I'll meet you in an hour." It should have been a relief. Instead, it only intensified the knot in my stomach. I met him at our usual spot, the cafe near his apartment. It had always been our place, the spot where we shared our first kiss, where we talked about our dreams late into the night. But as I walked inside, I felt none of that warmth, none of that comfort. I spotted him right away, sitting at a corner table, his back to the door. I could see he was distracted, tapping his fingers anxiously on the table. His face seemed more tired than usual, but I couldn't tell if it was from work or something else. When he saw me, his eyes softened, but there was a guarded look in them. It made my heart race. He didn't seem like the Daniel I knew, the easygoing, open person who used to share everything with me. "Hey," I said, trying to sound calm, but my voice wavered. "Hey, Jade," he replied, offering a tight smile. But it didn't reach his eyes. I sat down across from him, my heart pounding. I opened my mouth to speak, but my words felt stuck. I had rehearsed this moment 100 times in my mind, but now that I was here, facing him, everything felt wrong. "Is something going on with you?" I finally blurted out. "There's something I need to ask. Something that's been bothering me." He looked away, taking a deep breath. "What is it?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "Who is she, Daniel?" "The girl in the photo. The one you were holding hands with. Who is she?" My voice cracked at the end, betraying the vulnerability I tried so hard to hide. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. His eyes flickered to the side, his jaw tight. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, and that was enough to confirm everything I had feared. He stopped, shaking his head like he didn't know how to explain. "Jade, I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out like this." My heart sank. I couldn't breathe. "So it's true. You've been seeing her." The words sounded like they didn't belong to me, like they came from a stranger, a different version of myself that I didn't recognize. My hands started to tremble, but I forced myself to keep eye contact. I needed to hear it from him. "I wasn't planning on telling you," he confessed, his voice low, almost apologetic. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Hurt me?" I felt like I had been slapped. My chest was tight, and a dull, suffocating pain spread through my veins. This was the moment the truth I'd been dreading, and yet, the reality of it was still more painful than I could have imagined. I don't understand." The words barely escaped my lips. "You were the one who told me to follow my dreams, to go after what I wanted. And now this?" My voice cracked with the weight of betrayal. "How could you do this to me, Daniel?" He ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling with his own guilt. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It just did. I met her at work, and things got complicated. I never wanted you to get hurt. You were supposed to be the one I'd build a future with. But she..." He trailed off, his gaze shifting uncomfortably. But what? I demanded, my voice rising with frustration. What, Daniel? What do you mean she? She's someone I can't just let go of, he said softly. I can't explain it, but she makes me feel like I'm not just pretending. With you, it always felt like we were in two different worlds. I couldn't be the person I needed to be with you. The words hit me like a slap to the face. I was shaking now, my chest heaving with the force of my emotions. You didn't think to talk to me? To tell me that we weren't working? Instead, you just kept lying to me? I was trembling, my whole body trembling from the mix of disbelief and rage bubbling up inside me. He didn't answer, his silence heavier than any apology. The man I had loved, trusted, built a future with, was gone. But then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, something else shifted in the room. I heard a soft sound from behind me, a familiar voice. Jade, Lily said, her voice almost a whisper. I turned, my heart already sinking as I saw her standing there, her eyes wide, a strange mix of sadness and satisfaction. It was the look of someone who had already known the truth, someone who had been waiting for this moment. And that was when it hit me. It wasn't just Daniel who had betrayed me. It was Lily, too. The walls seemed to close in on me. I was trapped, suffocated by the truth I had never wanted to see. The air in the cafe felt thick, like it was closing in around me. My breath came in shallow gasps, my heart thundering in my chest. I looked back at Lily, standing at the entrance, her eyes cold, calculating. The shock of seeing her here, right now, with everything unraveling, made my mind scramble to make sense of what was happening. Lily, what the hell are you doing here? I demanded, my voice trembling with the whirlwind of emotions crashing through me. She didn't answer immediately. She just stared at me, her gaze too steady, too calm, as if she had seen all of this coming. I could feel the fury rising in my chest. This was the worst possible moment, and yet here she was, watching me burn from the outside. I wanted to scream, but no words would come. I couldn't comprehend how this was happening. My best friend, the one person who had always been there for me, was standing there, silent, as Daniel and I were on the brink of complete destruction. Daniel shifted uneasily in his seat, his eyes darting between me and Lily. Jade, he began, his voice barely a whisper, but it sounded so distant. He wasn't my Daniel anymore. I never meant for you to find out like this. It's been building up for so long. I was about to speak when Lily's voice interrupted, sharp and final. No, Jade, this was never going to work. You were always too caught up in your dreams, your career. You didn't see him slipping away, did you? Her words stung, but it wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it, like she knew she had every right to say them. Like I had been too blind to see what was right in front of me. Lily, what are you talking about? I felt a cold sweat form on the back of my neck. Something was wrong. I could feel the ground shifting beneath me, and I didn't know how to keep my balance anymore. Lily finally took a step forward, her lips curving into a faint, almost pitying smile. You were never going to be enough for him, Jade. Not in the way she is, not in the way I am. I froze. What? The words felt like a slap across my face. My mind reeled. She couldn't be saying what I thought she was saying, could she? I looked at her, my stomach twisting with the sudden, terrible realization. You. My voice was barely audible. You've been with him this whole time? Lily nodded slowly, her eyes cold, but there was a flicker of something in them. Guilt, perhaps, or satisfaction. I couldn't tell. You knew, Jade, all along. I was the one who kept him grounded when you were too focused on your career, too focused on other things. She stepped closer, her every word a blade digging deeper into my chest. I was the one who made him feel alive, while you were too busy trying to chase a life that didn't even exist. I stumbled backward, my legs weak beneath me. The cafe, the people, the world around me seemed to blur as the truth hit like a wave. My best friend. The one person I had trusted more than anyone else in my life. She had been playing me this entire time. And Daniel? He had never been the man I thought he was. No. I shook my head violently, the words coming out in a desperate sob. No, this isn't happening. You can't. But Lily wasn't finished. She stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper now. It was always going to be me, Jade. You were never going to be his real choice. He chose me. I was the one who gave him what you never could. I felt the world crumble beneath me. My best friend, the one I had confided in, laughed with, cried with, had been scheming behind my back. She had manipulated me, twisted everything until I couldn't see the truth. And Daniel had let it happen. He looked at me then, his face twisted in something close to regret, but it was too late for apologies. The damage was done. I could feel the suffocating weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest, crushing me. No, I gasped, my body trembling as I tried to hold it together. This isn't love. This is a lie. But they just stood there, the two of them, side by side. And in that moment I realized something. Daniel wasn't the person I thought he was. Neither was Lily. They had both been playing a game, and I was nothing but a pawn. I turned away from them, the words of betrayal echoing in my mind. I was never going to be enough. My heart shattered as I walked out of that cafe, leaving behind everything I thought I knew. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, and I was falling, with no way to stop the descent. I didn't know where I was going anymore. I just knew I had to get away from them, away from the life I thought I had built. As I stepped into the cold night, the tears finally came. And with them, the realization that everything I had built, everything I had believed in, had been nothing but an illusion. I walked through the empty streets, the cool night air biting at my skin, but I barely felt it. My mind was numb, consumed by the overwhelming weight of everything that had just shattered. The world seemed muffled, distant, like I was walking through a fog, unable to see clearly. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat and the haunting silence of the lies that had been exposed. I had left the cafe in a blur, unable to process the gravity of what had happened. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. Not with them, not with him watching me fall apart. Daniel's face, guilt-ridden but distant, and Lily's cold eyes, like a predator waiting for its prey to collapse. I was just a casualty of their twisted game, and the truth was more painful than anything I could have imagined. But as I walked, something inside me began to shift. The pain was still there, gnawing at me like a constant ache, but there was a flicker of something else beneath it. Something I couldn't name, something that felt like the beginning of a change. It was the realization that I wasn't going to let them win. I couldn't keep walking around with this weight, this suffocating betrayal on my shoulders. I couldn't let them have control over me anymore. For years, I had sacrificed pieces of myself for others. For Daniel, for Lily, for the dream I had tried to build. I had tried so hard to be perfect for everyone else, to fit into a life that wasn't really mine. And now, it was time to stop. I stopped in front of a bench by the side of the road, the neon lights of the city flickering in the distance. I sat down, my hands trembling as I dug into my bag and pulled out my phone. It had been silent since I left the cafe, but now I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had to face the aftermath. There were dozens of messages, some from Daniel, some from Lily, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. What could they possibly say that would make this any better? I deleted all of them, one by one. Then, I turned my phone off, and in that moment, I realized I was free. The realization wasn't immediate. It came slowly, like the first rays of dawn breaking through a dark sky. I wasn't tied to Daniel anymore. I wasn't tied to Lily. And I wasn't tied to the life I had been desperately trying to hold together. I was alone, but I was mine. And that was enough. It had to be enough. As I stood up from the bench, I didn't feel the familiar pull of guilt or regret that I had expected. Instead, I felt a strange peace begin to settle over me, as if for the first time in my life, I was truly breathing for myself. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to confront them or tear them apart. The truth had already come out, and nothing would change what had happened. What I needed now was to rebuild. I had spent so much time focusing on what I had lost, but now I had to focus on what I could gain, on who I could become. As I walked away from the bench, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The city felt different now, almost as if I were seeing it for the first time. The lights were brighter, the air clearer, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running from something. I was running toward something, toward my own future, my own path. And as I stepped into the night, something inside me shifted once more. I wasn't the same person who had walked into that cafe earlier. I wasn't the same person who had blindly trusted and loved. I am stronger now, wiser. And no matter what came next, I knew I could face it. Sometimes, I thought to myself, the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But in the end, that's what teaches us to love ourselves more. And just like that, everything I knew about love and trust was gone. But in its place, I found a strength I never knew I had. A strength that would carry me forward, no matter what the future held. The night was still young, and I had a long road ahead. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it.